Joel went here with some more on the Songs of a True White Brother, part 2 of a free rendering of the Hopi prophecy. Last time I started talking about the details of it, I mentioned the idea that they had left a land that was about to be destroyed because of the activities of evil, two-hearted people. And they went, in some of the versions, they went up through a reed into, through clouds into a new land. There's a lot of different places one can get information about the Hopi prophecy. Here's one of the books I have, The Return of Pahana. That's actually about that idea, that Pahana is a Hopi word for the white brother. In this book is a copy of the main version of the Hopi oral history that and prophetic materials that I use. This was published in around 1970 in a little booklet called From the Beginning of Life to the Day of Purification, and it represents a talk given in Hopi by Grandfather Dan Kachanagva. Sorry, I'm not going to get that right. Please excuse me. For people who want to know about whether I've done anything more than books, at a certain point I'll tell a story about when I went to see Grandfather David Magai on the Hopi Reservation over the Easter weekend of 1985. But right now, let's just get a little bit more in the story. It's sort of a preliminary thing as well. Let's talk a little bit about oral histories in general. One of the things that's going to be obvious when we get deeper into the details is that when people tell an oral history in the present, when they tell it again and again and again, especially if it has prophetic materials, it's easy for them to sort of look at events that they've witnessed themselves and repeat or adjust the meaning of the prophetic material in accord with the events. And this would be a very human thing to do, and it doesn't necessarily mean that prophetic material is wrong. Let's just recognize that human beings are telling these stories, and they will adapt these stories somewhat to what they see in the world, especially if they have expectations about what's going to happen. There's also a thing that we might call drift of meaning. The Hopi oral history appears to be thousands of years old, and being told and retold during that long period of time, all kinds of aspects of the story would slide a little bit. For example, in talking about going up through a reed, through a land of mists, or through mists to get into a new world, to get away from destruction, it could be that the story said that originally that we traveled by reed boats through mists and came into a land of sunlight when we fled the destruction. And I'm not saying that what I just said is more true or less true. I'm just saying that it's possible over time that these things could be adjusted by different speakers, and those of us who have played the game Rumor in a Room know that this can happen. So when we look at the Hopi oral history, at first blush we just shouldn't expect it to be the observations of someone trained in science who's going to very precisely write things down. They didn't have a written language. They used images carved on stone, and anyway, that's enough about that. Now, as they fled this land and it was being destroyed, they traveled, and at some point in their travels, according to the version of the Hopi oral history in From the Beginning of Life to the Day of Purification, they had a certain individual die. And this chief had two sons, two brothers, and the wisdom of this chief and the Hopi at that time was to divide up between the two of them something that was called the stone tablets. Now, the stone tablets is an image that can be seen as very concrete in a sense, because they did keep writings on stone, and it may actually have been that they carried these stone tablets with them. In any event, one brother was to go to the west into a new land, travel as far east, west, south, and north as he could, leaving behind rock writings and ruins, because their prophecies predicted that at one time, even though they were a unity group when they fled the old land, that they would in the future forget that they'd once been all one people. And so they left behind these remains of their travels. And this brother that went to the west was called the younger brother, and the elder brother of the two brothers was to go to the east and wait for a future time when the younger brother would be in crisis, at which point the elder brother was to come to the younger brother's aid. And that's sort of an interesting aspect of the story. Let's just go on to some of the other details, sort of cover the whole thing in a kind of way. Today, one of the other aspects of it was that there would come this time of crisis when the younger brother was in need. The younger brother's way of life would have been destroyed, or nearly destroyed. Maybe only one or two people would still be faithful to the original Hopi spiritual ideas and religion. And at this time there would be this time of crises, which would inaugurate what they call the Day of Purification, would be sort of announced in a way you could say by three wars. And the imagery that the Hopi use has been applied to the first two world wars in the United States, and as if they represented the first two crises that the prophecy describes. Remember at the beginning I said that this prophetic traditions can interpret things according to what they see, but in any event their prophecy enabled them to look at these situations and believe that the First World War was predicted by the prophecy, and the Second World War was predicted by the prophecy, and then according to their prophecy there would come a third crisis. And when this third crisis happened, one of the language uses is given by Grandfather Dan From Beginning of Life, is that in the third crisis the red symbol will take command of the four forces of nature for the benefit of the sun. Now this is interesting language, especially if you work with it over a certain amount of time as I have. And we're about out of time, so I'm going to stop now, and then in the next version I'll give you some more of the material that's going to be presented on this question.